For nearly 2 decades, Russell Brand has been a name the world couldn't ignore. Loud, wild, and unpredictable, he was the rock star comedian who exploded out of the UK and crashed into Hollywood with the force of a cultural grenade. From hosting MTV and starring in box office hits like Get Him to the Greek and Forgetting Sarah Marshall, to marrying pop icon Katy Perry. Russell Brand wasn't just famous, he was everywhere. He built an entire persona on chaos, charm, and controversy. But behind the bohemian fashion, messy hair, and rapid-fire wit, a darker narrative was quietly building. For years, there were rumours, whispers, uneasy stories from former colleagues, ex-girlfriends, and even journalists. Stories that painted a troubling picture of a man who blurred the lines between consent and control. Brand brushed it all off with a wink and a joke. To fans, he was the lovable bad boy who spoke truth to power. To others, he was something far more sinister. In 2023, everything changed. A major investigation led by multiple British media outlets brought long-silenced allegations to light. Several women stepped forward, accusing Russell Brand of sexual assault, rape, emotional abuse, and manipulation. These weren't anonymous internet rumours. These were women with names, timelines, diaries, text messages, and painful memories, all now part of an active criminal investigation. And in April 2025, the UK government confirmed what many feared was coming. Russell Brand was officially charged with multiple sex crimes spanning the early 2000s. Charges included 1 count of rape, 1 count of sexual assault, and 1 count of controlling and coercive behaviour, all connected to women who claim Brand used his fame, charm, and power to abuse and intimidate them. Brand has denied every allegation. His lawyers say it's a coordinated attack, a political hit job designed to silence a man who dares to speak truth on controversial issues. But this isn't about his podcast, or his political takes, or whether you like his YouTube channel. This is about what happened behind closed doors when the cameras were off. And now, Russell Brand isn't performing to sold-out arenas or starring in major films. He's preparing for trial. The showman is now the defendant, and this time the stakes aren't ratings, they're years in prison, before the criminal charges, before the backlash, before the YouTube rebirth. Russell Brand was the ultimate underdog turned icon. Born in Essex, England in 1975, Brand's childhood was anything but stable. He was raised mostly by his mother, who battled cancer multiple times while Russell was still a child. His father, largely absent, briefly reappeared only to allegedly introduce him to drugs, women, and strip clubs at the age of 16. From there, things spiraled. Russell developed a crippling heroin and sex addiction by his early 20s. He was expelled from drama school, fired from MTV, blacklisted by networks. At one point, he was homeless, sleeping on couches, stealing to survive, drowning in self-destruction. But then came the twist. In 2003, after hitting rock bottom, Brand went sober. Cold turkey, no rehab, no intervention, just willpower and desperation. And suddenly, he was unstoppable. He exploded onto the British comedy scene like a punk rock prophet. All eyeliner, metaphors, and madness. Shows like Big Brother's Big Mouth turned him into a cult favourite. By 2008, he'd broken into America with his outrageous VMA hosting gig, calling George W. Bush a retarded cowboy and triggering an international media firestorm. But controversy only fueled his rise. Hollywood came calling. His roles in Forgetting Sarah Marshall and Get Him to the Greek cemented him as a new kind of celebrity. Part stand-up, part sex symbol, part intellectual rebel. He was bold, shameless, hilarious, dangerous, and people couldn't stop watching. In 2010, he married global pop superstar Katy Perry in a lavish Indian ceremony. The media dubbed them the ultimate chaos couple. But behind the scenes, cracks were already forming. Their marriage lasted just 14 months, and Brand reportedly ended it with a text. Still, the image remained. Russell Brand, the wild man who overcame addiction, conquered Hollywood, and found love with a global icon. To fans, he was proof that redemption was real, but redemption without accountability rarely lasts. And while the world was still cheering for the comeback kid, the first shadows of his past were already following him. September 2023, the first bomb drops. A joint investigation by the Sunday Times, The Times, and Channel 4's dispatches airs with damning clarity. 4 women, all unrelated, step forward. Each accuses Russell Brand of serious sexual misconduct. The allegations range from rape, sexual assault, coercive control, to emotional abuse. The reported incidents span from 2006 to 2013 at the height of Brand's fame. One woman, identified as Alice, was just 16 when she says Brand, then 31, groomed her, isolated her from family, and emotionally manipulated her into sex. She describes their relationship as controlling, terrifying, and psychologically damaging. Another woman accuses Brand of raping her against a wall in his Los Angeles home in 2012. She says she went straight to a rape crisis center afterward, and the documents still exist. A third woman, a former employee of his BBC Radio 2 show, says Brand flashed her in the office, then joked about it live on air minutes later. And the fourth, a former partner, says he became physically aggressive during sex, ignored her boundaries, and got off on degradation. In total, 4 women, 3 countries, 7 years of overlapping stories, and every single one of them says the same thing. Russell Brand's public charm masked a private predator. Within 24 hours, the fallout begins. Brand is dropped by his talent agency. His book publisher suspends all deals. YouTube demonetizes his entire channel, stripping away his income stream of over 6 million subscribers. He responds with a preemptive video on Rumble, calling the allegations a coordinated attack by the media. But the evidence continues to grow. Multiple texts, emails, and therapist notes support the women's stories. Police open formal investigations in both the UK and Los Angeles. More victims begin to come forward, and then in April 2025, it stops being a media story. It becomes a criminal case, April 24th, 2025. The case moves from accusation to prosecution. After nearly 18 months of media fallout, police interviews, and international pressure, the Crown Prosecution Service formally charges Russell Brand. He faces 3 criminal counts: rape, related to a 2012 incident in Los Angeles; sexual assault, tied to a London-based accuser from 2006; controlling and coercive behaviour, stemming from a years-long relationship with a former partner. Brand voluntarily appears at a police station for questioning. He's arrested, processed, and released on bail with travel restrictions. Outside the courthouse, cameras swarm. His legal team issues a short statement. Mr. Brand denies all charges and intends to fight them vigorously in court, but behind the scenes, panic is brewing. His US tours are cancelled. Media platforms continue to distance themselves. Even former celebrity friends begin going silent. Meanwhile, prosecutors release key details from their findings: medical records from a rape crisis clinic, emails and voice messages showing erratic, threatening behaviour, and, perhaps most damning, a handwritten letter allegedly from Brand, apologising for taking things too far. The court sets a tentative trial date for June 2026. If convicted, Russell Brand could face up to life in prison. But for Brand, this isn't just about prison, it's about legacy. A man who once branded himself as a voice of revolution now stands accused of exploiting power, not challenging it. And with every new charge, it becomes harder for the public and the law to separate the performer from the predator. The moment Russell Brand was charged, public opinion split like a fault line. His loyal fan base, especially followers of his podcast and alt media content, claimed it was a setup, a media takedown of a man speaking the truth. But outside his echo chamber, the backlash was brutal. Social media erupted with hashtags like "Bees believe the victims" and "Cancel Russell Brand." Former co-stars and comedians who once praised Brand's genius began distancing themselves. Clips from old interviews resurfaced. Jokes that once seemed edgy now felt disturbing. In one 2006 broadcast, Brand bragged about sleeping with a woman fresh out of rehab, laughing it off. That same year, he admitted on air to exposing himself to co-workers. What was once seen as shock comedy now reads like foreshadowing. The BBC and Channel 4 both launched internal investigations into their past handling of Brand's behaviour. Questions spread. Who knew? Who ignored it? And who enabled it? Russell Brand is out on bail, but he's walking a legal tightrope. His June 2026 trial could run for months. Prosecutors are reportedly preparing over 100 witnesses, including medical professionals, past employees, and several women not yet publicly identified. Defense attorneys are pushing back hard, challenging the credibility of the victims, claiming media bias, and accusing the CPS of political motivation. But the evidence is growing, more digital records, testimonies, cross-reference timelines. If convicted, Brand could face decades behind bars and permanent registration as a sex offender. His podcast sponsors are gone, his books are pulled, his comedy tour is finished. For a man who once stood on global stages and talked about love, consciousness, and healing, his history might now destroy everything he built. Russell Brand wanted to be more than famous. He wanted to be a movement. He called himself a revolutionary, a truth teller, a spiritual rebel. But what happens when that truth turns on you? The allegations, the arrest, and the upcoming trial don't just threaten his freedom. They've already rewritten his legacy. One by one, his supporters are peeling away. His silence isn't calming anyone, and his old words, meant to enlighten, now echo like warnings. Russell Brand may have once survived addiction, scandal, and chaos. But this could be the one storm he doesn't walk away from.